as Deku looks down on his now deceased mother, who promised not to leave him. He realizes he has nothing left. Nobody left. Nobody likes him. Nobody loves him. He's a loner. That's all he'll ever be. His mom was the only person that he held dear left. But now she's dead. So we see Deku, tears rolling down his face, as he's sitting up against an oak tree, just staring at his mother's grave, contemplating on where he went wrong in life. How did it get so bad? How could I have let myself go this far into the darkness? How could life screw me over like this? Do I deserve it or something? What did I do? As Deku would then look to see his brother and sister coming, along with his father. As Deku would stand up, wipe his tears, and he'd begin to leave. But before he could, his brother would see him and say, "Is that useless Deku? Hey, Dad, look!" As Hiyashi would look over to see Izuku leaving, as he'd say, "Watch this. That bastard thinks that he can get away with staring at my wife's grave. Screw that." As he would blow out a medium-sized fireball, as it would be rushing at Izuku, and Izuku, not noticing, would be hit in the back with it, as his back would be completely scorched. He'd wince in pain a bit, but he would then get up and continue walking without saying a word. Time skip 5 days. We see Deku with cuts all over his body. He's laying down in the rain after a pretty horrible beating. He wants to be free. He wants to be free from life. All the people that hurt him. He thinks that if his pain goes away, he can restart. Try again. Do it right the next time. But he knows that he won't get another chance. As Deku would pick himself up and go back to his old, beat up, run-down apartment. Deku would be lying in his bed, contemplating everything. As we would have a flashback of loud shouting and bottles being smashed. Hiyashi would be wanting to throw Izuku out, but Izuku's mother, she wouldn't allow it. She loved Izuku with everything she had, and Izuku the same. But Hiyashi didn't see the point of a quirkless idiot, a quirkless disgrace, to live in the same home as quirked people. Which is why he was arguing with Inko, which is the greatest mother in anime, by the way, to throw him out of the house. Yeah, he wants him gone. Izuku would be in the corner as Hiyashi would walk up to him and say, "This is all your fault," as he'd smash a bottle on his head Izuku not saying anything, just wincing a bit in pain as he'd fall to the ground with an open gash on his head. Izuku would have tears coming out of his eyes. Izuku would still be thinking that it would all be okay as long as he had his mother. But she couldn't help him. Hiyashi would tell her that if she got close to him, he would divorce her. So her only choice was to watch Izuku get beaten to a bloody pulp. Izuku would watch as his mother cried, as his father beat him. His siblings would eventually get home from school, as they would watch, and his brother, Izuma, would join in. He'd use his weak, why not? Medium, I guess. I don't fucking know. He's useless as shit to this story, but he'd use his medium or average caliber fire quirk to burn Izuku. As Inko would see the problem with their children. She would see that they were nothing but stuck up little brats who didn't deserve anything in life. They're cruel, but she could only blame that on Hiyashi because he drilled that into their brains. After Izuku's horrible beating, he wouldn't get up. He couldn't. He laid there in a coma for 5 days. And this would be his realization. Life isn't fair. But there's nothing I can do about that. As he'd still be in his mind. Izuku would close his eyes into his seemingly mindscape. As he'd say, since I can't change it, I might as well just go to sleep. End of the flashback. Izuku is now, still in the rain. He's trying to get up, but it's pretty hard seeing that Bakugo, his sister, and his brother just beat him for absolutely no reason. As Izuku would try to get up, and once he did, he'd say, I've had about enough of this. They think they can get away with something like this. Oh, they're wrong. I'll show them that they're wrong. As Izuku would he'd limp himself back to his apartment. Izuku would pick up a book that he'd been looking at for a pretty long time now. It would be on historical things, more or less historical weapons. As he wouldn't be interested in nothing from the 1960s or 1640s or some dumb shit like that. He was thinking about before Christ, or just as Christ appeared. As Deku would flip the page, as he would see a sentence that would end up changing his life forever. It would be called reverse. The sentence would say that the person that is chosen to wield this power will be cursed, but their curse can be lifted if they can complete these tasks. And if these tasks are completed, well, they'll be able to gain this power with no drawbacks whatsoever. As there would be 3 tasks. One, it would be first you would have to climb the tallest mountain. And once you reach this peak, you have to accept God. 2, your body would have to be in pretty peak condition to accept this power. And 3, you would have to spill the blood of a family member. And shit, that would complete the ritual. As Izuku would just smile. This power is mine. As Izuku would get up, as he would think that the easiest one to do was to get his body in peak condition. And so he did. Izuku's body, well, after a few months of training, shit, I ain't even gonna cap to y'all, he'd be pretty ripped. 3 months of training, every day, non-stop, lifting weights, doing sit-ups, push-ups, everything that he could. He would be skinny, but ripped at the same time. As Izuku would think to himself, I guess it's time to move on to the second step. As Izuku would go to what's the tallest mountain? I don't fucking know, I'll just say Mount Everest. He would travel to Mount Everest and he'd begin climbing. After 5 days, he would reach the top. As Izuku would look up and say, God, you are my Lord and Savior. Please, grant me your power. As the Lord's blessing would rush into Izuku, as he can feel the power starting to stir inside of him. And he knew that there was only one more thing to do. And this would let Izuku be free. This would lead Izuku to greater things in life. Or so he thought. But he'd be wrong. Izuku would climb down Mount Everest and catch a plane home. Once he got home, he saw that his house was vandalized. It would say loser, and all types of names would be on his walls. But Izuku wasn't really worried, because he knew that he was better than the people who did this to him. He knew that the people that did this to him were weaker than him, or stronger for now, but going to be weaker than him. As Izuku would then grab a knife from his kitchen, as he would make his way to the Midoriya household. His target was his father, saying that he was the one who killed his mother. Flashback. After Izuku's horrible beating, Inko, she had enough. So she said that she was going to divorce Hiyashi. But Hiyashi, he couldn't have that, because he knew that she was going to go to the police with this information that, well, she'd had seen. And so he began beating her. And he cursed horribly at her, saying that slut wasn't allowed to leave him. And he knew that she was just gonna snitch, so what's the point in her living? He would end up beating Inko to death. Inko's face would be unrecognizable by the end of it. Her body would have all types of bruises and things on it. And even after death, he continued beating her head in. Izuku, well, he would see this through a crack in their door. And this is what would lead him to take the money that his mother had given him and leave. Now, the flashback's over. We go back to Izuku, walking through the streets, thinking about how fun it's going to be to get revenge. Thinking about how fun it's going to be to see his father in pain. To switch the roles. As he would finally meet the door as he'd knock, and to his surprise, his father would be the one to answer. Izuku would be holding the knife behind his back. As Hiyashi would say, "The fuck are you doing here? Damn loser. You know you're the reason your mother died, right?" This would set Izuku off. Izuku would walk closer to Hiyashi with a sadistic smile on his face. He'd say to him, in a low voice or a low tone, "This is for all the pain that you've caused me." As Hiyashi would say, "What?" He would be stabbed directly through the chest. The knife would pierce his chest and go out the other side. As Izuku would say, "You've caused me nothing but pain. And now you're gonna give me great power. I thank you for that." As Izuku's body would start to glow in a yellow aura. As he would be sent to heaven, shit. Or a place that looked like heaven. As he would see a pedestal. As it would have a small treasure chest. As Deku would walk up to it, open the treasure chest. As he would see two pairs of eyes. In a letter. This letter would say it was written from God. It would say, "Dear young Izuku, I have seen your pain, and I will grant your wish of power. So, use these eyes and use them well. Once you put them in, you will know what to do." As God would, say, "P.S. You don't have to rip your original eyes out. Just place these over your real eyes and, you'll gain the power." As Izuku would smile and say, "Thanks, God." As he would grab the eyes, as he would push them into his sockets, as those eyes, or the reverse eyes, would fuse with his real ones. As a lot of things would rush into Izuku's head. Loads and loads of knowledge. This would make Izuku fall to his knees in the real world, which is where he would be at. This is where he would be at after he received the eyes. And so, once Izuku was back in the real world, he would take the knife out of his father and throw it away. As Izuku would activate his eyes, as his brother would see him, and he'd see his father on the ground bleeding. As he'd say, "What did you do?" As he would go to throw a fireball at Izuku. But Izuku would say these words, "That fireball is going to kill me." As the fireball would hit Izuku, but it wouldn't do damage, or not as much as it was intended to do. And Izuma thought this was a fluke, so he sent another fireball at him. As Izuku would just use sarcasm. He'd say, "I hope that doesn't hit you. I mean, it's kind of close." As the fireball would turn around, as it would hit Izuma. as Deku would say, "You're useless." As he would walk over to his brother, grab him by the head, and knee him directly in his nose. As Deku would drag his brother up to Izumi's room, which is, well, his sister, if you didn't already guess that. As he'd say, "Knock, knock." Izumi would answer her door, as Izuku would throw his brother at Izumi and say, You two. You two have caused me real pain over the years. Beating me, torturing me." As Izumi would say, "So? What are you gonna do?" As Deku would say, "What am I gonna do? Well, let me show you." As he'd say, "I hope you're not on fire, Izumi. That would be a damn shame if you did." Huh. I wonder what it would be like for you to catch fire. As Izumi's shirt would start to spark up. As Izuku would start smiling as he'd say, "Huh? Oh, Izumi, your shirt's on fire." As Izumi would see this, as she would damn near be engulfed by the flame, because it was growing at an unreal speed, as he would then face his brother, as he'd say, "It would be a damn shame if your legs were to be broken." As, well, shit. Yeah, that nigga legs was broken. Yeah, they just twisted by themselves, like, in general. As Deku continued this for a while, eventually breaking and mangling every bone in his pathetic siblings' bodies. They wouldn't be dead, but they wouldn't be alive either. They would be, right in between. Damn near dead, but not quite alive. As Izuku would be leaving the room, as he'd say, "I hope you guys don't die in 10 years. As this statement, it would place a chain on their hearts. As Izuku would just smile, as he'd say, "See you in 10 years. As we could see Izuku walking out of his previous family's house. Once he had left, we can see, well, Izuku walking through the streets, seeing that it was just about time for him to go back to school. Izuku would walk to the school. No backpack, no nothing, because this nigga does not care. And this is most likely... I'll make it 3 parts. This is a 4-part what if. It'll only have 4 parts. Yes. But, yeah. Izuku would reach his school as he'd say, So, the place that has caused me pain. What do I feel like doing with it? Teachers bullying me, along with the students. I wonder." As Deku would activate his eyes again. Would it be a shame if the school were to burn down this instant? As Izuku would leave the school, and once he left, the entire school engulfed in flames. Students were running out in every direction, but at least 60 of them didn't make it. As Izuku would just smile and say, "What useless people. And here I thought they were supreme. Useless bastards." As Izuku would walk back to his apartment, the cops would be called, both on Izuku's family incident and the school's incident. And, well, Izuku would kind of be blamed for his family incident. And Izuma inferred that Izuku was going after the school next, since he did kind of say that everything that caused him pain he was going to destroy. And it was kind of weird that the school burned down all of a sudden. So, Yeah, Izuku was blamed for that as well, and the cops, well, they just didn't give a fuck. They said, all right, he's the one to blame for this shit. We're gonna go get his ass. And so they began to track down Izuku. But little did they know, this was going to be the worst mistake that possibly anybody had ever made. But, guys, I'm going to end this off right here because, well, I'm in trouble. Horrible trouble. And I'm not even supposed to be on my phone. I made this what if because, like, I couldn't leave you guys hanging. Y'all are important, literally. Probably the most important people to me. But, yeah. Bye.